The ground shook as Ellis opened his eyes. His helmet was cracked, blood dripped down his cheek. Smoke rose from the wreckage of the dropship around him. Sparks danced in the air like fireflies made of metal. He tried to move. Pain shot through. His leg, broken, maybe. The mission had gone wrong, very wrong. Ellis reached for his sidearm, still clipped to his belt. The rest of his squad was gone. Burned shadows on the rocks. Their last screams still echoed in his mind. The sky was red, not from the sun, from fire. "Command," he said, voice dry. "Do you copy?" Static answered. Ellis knew he was alone. But something was watching him. He felt it, eyes heavy, unblinking. He turned slowly. At first, he saw nothing, just sharp cliffs, molten rivers, and black mountains in the distance. Then he saw it. Standing near the edge of a broken bridge was the red dragon. Huge, taller than a tank. Scales like metal, wings folded tightly against its back. Smoke curled from its nostrils. Its eyes bright gold watched him without blinking. Ellis froze. The stories were true. Red dragons were monsters, killers, unstoppable. The war between humans and dragons had lasted 30 years. Red dragons were the worst known for burning entire colonies. He raised his weapon with shaking hands. "Stay back," he shouted. The dragon didn't move. Ellis's finger hovered over the trigger. Then something strange happened. The dragon slowly stepped forward, not fast, not with anger. Calm. It stopped only a few feet away from Ellis. Then it did the unthinkable. The red dragon reached out its claw, not to strike, not to burn, but open like a handshake. Ellis stared, confused that this had to be a trick. "No one trusts a red dragon," he whispered. The dragon spoke. Its voice was deep, like thunder trapped in stone. "You are wounded. You need help." Ellis's heart pounded. "Why would you help me?" The dragon paused. "Because I saw what your command did. They abandoned you." Ellis didn't lower his weapon, but his hand was shaking now. "How do I know this isn't a trap?" "You don't," the dragon said. "But I won't force you. You'll die if you stay here. This planet is not kind to the broken." Ellis looked at the wreckage, the bodies of his friends, his broken leg, no signal, no help, and this dragon. Offering its claw, it made no sense, but nothing made sense anymore. His grip loosened. Slowly, carefully, he took the dragon's claw. Warm, strangely gentle. Everything changed at that moment. The dragon lifted him carefully and placed him on its back. Ellis wanted to scream, but the pain was too much. He blacked out when he woke up. They were deep inside a cave. Firelight danced. Along the walls, the dragon sat nearby, watching him. A pot boiled over a small fire. The smell of herbs filled the air. "You're lucky," the dragon said. "Your leg is only fractured. I wrapped it while you slept." Ellis couldn't believe it. "You're helping me?" The dragon gave a small nod. "My name is Kale." Ellis didn't answer. His head hurt. Too many questions, too much fear. Kale stood and turned away. "Rest. You'll need your strength." "Why?" Ellis asked. "Why are you really doing this?" Kale didn't look back. "Because there's more to this war than you know." The fire cracked. The cave felt colder. Ellis stared at the dragon. He had been trained to kill them, taught they were evil, creatures of fire and hate. But Kale had saved him, fixed his leg, cooked food. Was this a game? Or was everything he'd been told a lie? He didn't know, but deep down, something told him this dragon was hiding something, and that something could change everything. The next day, Ellis limped beside Kale as they moved. Through the rocky canyons, Kale led him to a high cliff where the wind screamed like ghosts. Below them was a ruined city, strange towers, statues shaped like dragons, walls melted by fire and time. "What is this place?" Ellis asked. Kale's voice was quiet. "This was once the heart of my people. Before the humans came, before the bombs." Ellis looked at the destruction. He remembered the briefings. Dragons were dangerous, aggressive, but standing here, it looked more like a home than a battlefield. Kale led him into a chamber beneath the city. The walls glowed faintly, symbols carved. Deep into the stone pulsed with blue light. "This is our memory room," Cal said. He touched the wall. A hologram appeared. It showed dragons flying beside humans, not fighting, working together. Ellis stared, shocked. That's impossible, Kale turned. Not impossible, forgotten. Long ago, we were allies. Builders, healers, your kind came from the stars. And, forgot the old bonds, the hologram changed. It showed a battle. Humans firing on dragons, explosions, fire. Why? Ellis whispered. Kale's voice was full of pain. Someone wanted the war. Someone powerful. They erased the truth, made dragons into monsters. Tricked both sides. Ellis stepped back, his head spun. None of this made sense. You're saying this whole war was planned? Kale nodded. By someone you serve. Silence. Ellis couldn't breathe. He had fought for honor, for duty. But what if that duty was a lie? A sound broke the silence. A high-pitched beep. Ellis turned to his wrist. Come at blinking red light. His emergency signal had been answered. Kale's eyes narrowed. You called for them. Ellis looked up. I didn't mean. Kale grabbed him, pulling him behind a wall. Seconds later, the sky above cracked open. 3 human ships screamed down from the clouds. Laser fire rained across the old city. They weren't here to rescue Ellis. They were here to erase witnesses. Ellis saw it clearly now. He was never meant to return. The truth was too dangerous, Kale roared, shielding Ellis with his wings. Run, he shouted. Ellis didn't argue. Together, they disappeared into the ruins, hunted by the very people Ellis once trusted. And now, he knew the only one he could trust was the Red Dragon. Ellis ran through the narrow tunnels under the ruined Dragon City. His legs still hurt, but he pushed forward. Behind him, Kale moved like a silent shadow, wings folded tight, his massive body squeezing through the crumbling walls. Above them, the sky burned. Human gunships circled like vultures. Their searchlights flashed across the broken towers. We don't have much time. Ellis stopped, gasping for breath. Why would they attack? I sent an SOS. Kale's golden eyes glowed in the dark. You don't understand. They don't want to rescue you. They want you dead. Ellis shook his head. I'm one of their soldiers. You saw the memory chamber, Kale said. You saw what they tried to hide. That makes you dangerous. I followed orders. I believed in the mission. Kale stepped closer. And your team? They believed too. Now they're gone. You were sent here to kill me, but they never told you why. Ellis stared at him. Why are you telling me this? Kale hesitated. Then he sat on a stone ledge, claws resting calmly. Because you deserve to know the truth, he said. Ellis sat across from him, still unsure if he was dreaming or going mad. Start talking, he said. Kale's deep voice echoed. Softly through the tunnel, years ago, before the war, humans and dragons worked together. We shared knowledge, technology, peace. Your people came from the stars, and we welcomed them. Ellis listened silently. Then Kale continued. Something changed. Ellis's voice was quiet. Fear is easy to sell. Kale nodded. They told your people we were monsters, that we destroyed your colonies. But the attacks, they were staged, fabricated. Ellis frowned. What proof do you have? Kale looked down. Not much anymore. Most of it was destroyed. But I remember. Others do too. We tried to speak up, to stop the war, but we were hunted. Why didn't you fight back? Kale's voice became cold. We did. They showed those battles to your people as proof that we were evil. Ellis leaned back. His head felt heavy, his heart even heavier. So all this time, he said, I've been killing the wrong enemy. Kale didn't answer. The silence said enough suddenly. A soft sound echoed through the tunnel. Footsteps. Ellis pulled his blaster and turned. A small, spider-like probe floated into view. Had a red eye, blinking fast. Run, Kale shouted. The probe fired a pulse. Ellis rolled away as the wall exploded. We have to move. They raced through the tunnel until it opened into a hidden chamber. It was quiet here. Still, a large metal door stood at the end. The core room, one of the last protected places left. On this planet, Ellis approached the door. What's inside? Records, weapons, memories, secrets, your leaders buried. Kale placed his claw on the wall. A pulse of energy passed through the door. It unlocked with a deep hiss. Inside was a wide chamber filled with floating data crystals, glowing orbs, and broken machines. But one thing caught Ellis's eye. A map. It showed the galaxy and a red mark on Earth. "What is that?" Ellis asked. Cale stepped beside him. "It's called the Silence Protocol. It's what they use to wipe out any system that learns the truth." Ellis looked at him. "You're saying Earth is a target?" Cale nodded. "Not yet. But if people like you bring back what you've seen, it could be next." Ellis stared at the map. At his home, his family. "Then we have to stop them," he said. Cale's eyes narrowed. "Are you sure?" Ellis turned toward him. "You trusted me. Now I trust you." Cale looked away, as if thinking. Then, without a word, he reached toward the wall and pulled out a crystal. "This," he said, "is the last message from the Dragon Council before they fell." He handed the crystal to Ellis. Ellis activated it. A voice filled the chamber. It was calm, strong, proud. "To those who find this, know that our war was never ours. It was built on lies, on fear. We do not hate humanity. We remember who they once were, our friends, our allies, our brothers, but we were betrayed." Our voices silenced. "We leave this message for the brave few who still seek truth. If you carry this message, protect it. Carry it far and never forget. Truth is louder than fire." The message ended. Silence returned. Ellis felt something inside him shift. Not fear, not anger, but purpose. Cale looked at him. "Now you understand." Ellis nodded. "Yeah, I do." Then he heard something. A sharp sound, like claws on stone. Cale growled low. "They've found us." Ellis grabbed the crystal and slipped it into his armor. The door behind them. No insignia. Their weapons were ready. "Drop the weapon," one shouted. Ellis raised his hands, but Cale stood in front of him. He fired. The blast hit Cale's side. The dragon roared in pain, but didn't fall. Ellis grabbed his blaster and fired back. 2 soldiers dropped. Chaos filled the room. Cale leaped forward. Fire burst from his mouth, forcing the rest to fall back. Ellis ducked behind a console. "Okay?" Ellis asked. Cale nodded weakly. "It's not over. That was just a scout team. We take this message to someone who will listen." Cale looked at him. "There aren't many left." Ellis smiled. "Then we make them listen." It didn't sound like a monster. It sounded like a friend. Ellis looked at the broken door, the burning consoles, the map still glowing on the wall. He didn't know what was waiting for them out there, but he knew one thing. The night on Varnic 9 was deadly quiet. Ellis and Cale moved carefully through the shadows of the ruined city. The stars above were sharp and cold, but the ground beneath their feet felt alive with memories, with danger. Every step echoed like a whisper from the past. Cale walked ahead, his large frame silent despite his size. His wounds had been wrapped with strips from Ellis's emergency kit. But the red dragon moved slower now, he said quietly. Cale didn't look back. "I'll live. Worry about the skies." Ellis glanced up. Gunships had disappeared for now, but that didn't mean they were safe. "We need shelter," he said. Cale nodded toward a broken tower in the distance. "There's a place, ancient, buried, not even your satellites can see it." They moved quickly. The tower was crooked and broken, leaning like a wounded soldier. Vines and ash covered the entrance. Cale touched a carved stone near the door. The wall rumbled, then slid open with a hiss. Ellis stepped inside, and the air instantly changed. Warm, dry, heavy with silence. Lights blinked on around them, revealing a large chamber filled with statues, dragon banners, and blackened murals. "What is this place?" Ellis asked, looking around. Cale stepped inside slowly. A hall of memories. This was where dragon leaders once gathered. Now it is a tomb. Ellis stared at one of the murals. It showed a dragon standing beside a human, not fighting, talking, planning, building something. "They really were our allies, weren't they?" he whispered. Cale walked beside him. "We were more than allies. We shared blood. You carry more of us than you know." Ellis frowned. "What do you mean?" Cale tapped the center of his chest. "Long ago, humans and dragons formed a bond, a genetic one, a shared code. That code is nearly gone now, but a few humans still carry traces." Ellis stepped back. "Are you saying I'm part dragon?" Cale gave a rare smile. "Not part, just connected." Ellis didn't know how to feel. It was too much, too fast. Why me? He asked. Why did you help me? Out of all the humans you could have killed, why reach out to me? Kale's golden eyes locked on his. Because I saw your eyes. You didn't want to kill, you wanted answers. So did I. They stood in silence. Then Kale moved toward the center of the room. He pressed his claw against a control panel. The floor opened slowly, revealing a staircase. Ellis followed him down. They entered a smaller room filled with glowing crystals. Kale picked one up and handed it to Ellis. Place it in that slot, he said. Pointing. Ellis inserted the crystal into a projector. The room lit up with a large hologram. Images flickered around them, cities burning, fleets crashing, dragons falling from the sky. Then a video played. A group of human leaders sat in a dark room, talking. Their faces were blurred, but their words were clear. We must push the fear. The dragons cannot be trusted. If we lose control, the entire sector will fall. Another voice responded, but they've offered peace again. We don't want peace, the first voice said. We want full control. The image faded. Ellis stepped back, shocked. These are the people leading the war. Kale nodded. They are not generals. They are something worse, puppet masters. Ellis clenched his fists. All this death, all this blood, for power. Kale looked at him. Now you understand why I had to survive. Why I had to find someone who could help expose them. Ellis stared at the hologram again, then looked down. At his hands, his uniform, everything he had believed in felt like dust. I've been a soldier my whole life, he said, but now I feel like I've been fighting for the wrong side. Kale put a heavy claw on his shoulder. Sometimes, the dragon said, you must lose everything to find the truth. Suddenly, the lights flickered, the walls trembled. Growled, they've found the outer door. Ellis drew his blaster. How this place is hidden. They're tracking my heat signature, Kale said. They've upgraded their tech. Ellis looked around. Any exits? Kale pointed to a tunnel behind the memory room. It's narrow, he said. Too small for me, but you can go. Ellis blinked. I'm not leaving you. Kale shook his head. You have to. You carry the proof now. If you fall, everything falls. Ellis looked at the crystal, then at Kale. No, he said. We go together, Kale growled low. You're being foolish. Maybe, Ellis replied, but I didn't shake your claw to walk away now. Kale stared at him, then gave a slow nod. Very well, he said. Then we fight. They set traps in the hallways. Plasma charges, motion spikes, old tech from dragon times. Ellis hid behind a fallen statue. Kale crouched nearby, his chest still bleeding from earlier. The door above exploded open. Shadows moved down the stairs. Black-armored soldiers again. Silent, fast, brutal. Ellis fired the first shot. The hall lit up in fire and smoke. Kale leaped forward, slamming two enemies against the wall. He roared, and fire swept through the chamber. Ellis ducked, shot, rolled, reloaded. It was chaos. Then he saw one of the soldiers run past him, toward the memory room. No, Ellis shouted. He chased after the soldier. The man reached the console and aimed a small black device at the crystal. A data dash wiper. Ellis fired too. Late, the soldier activated the device. The crystal cracked, sparks flew. The proof gone. Ellis tackled the soldier in rage, slamming his head against the wall. But it was too late. The truth had just been burned. Again, he looked at the shattered crystal, his heart sinking. Then he heard Kale's voice behind him. There's more. Then one. Ellis turned. Kale stepped into the room, limping, smoke trailing from his wings. He held another crystal in his claw. I never keep all my fire in one place, he said. Ellis let out a breath, then smiled. You clever lizard, Kale grinned. You're learning? They left the chamber as explosions rocked the halls behind them. They ran through the back tunnel, barely escaping as the tower collapsed above ground. The night sky was full of smoke and fire. The human ships circled once, then vanished. They think we're dead, Kale said. Let them, Ellis replied. They walked into the shadows of the mountains, heading east toward the edge of the planet, toward the next step. We need off-world, Ellis said. A ship, a signal, somewhere. We can share the truth. Kale nodded. I know a place, but it's dangerous. Ellis gave a tired laugh. After all this, I think I'm ready for dangerous. They walked together, soldier and dragon, enemies once, now something more, and somewhere in the stars. The people who lied, who killed, who erased history, they were still watching. But now the truth had claws, and it was coming for them. The mountains of Varnaknin were sharp like blades. Each step up the rocky path felt heavier than the last. Wind howled through the narrow cracks. Dust stung Ellis's eyes. The air was thinner here, colder. The climb hurt, but he didn't stop. Walked beside him, slower now. His wounds hadn't fully healed. Blackened burns still marked his red scales. But his eyes, cold and glowing, were focused on the path ahead. Are you sure this is the right place? Ellis asked. Kale didn't answer for a moment. Then he pointed toward a high ridge. It's just beyond that peak. The old sky chamber. Ellis narrowed his eyes. Through the dust, he could barely make out the structural long-forgotten tower, made of black stone and old satellite dishes. What is it? Kale kept walking. Before the war, it was a signal relay, used by dragons and humans alike. It's dead now, but it can still send one last message. Ellis followed. They climbed the final stretch in silence. At the top, the sky chamber rose above the clouds. Its walls were cracked, its antennae broken, but the core systems inside still glowed. Faintly, barely alive, Kale pushed the heavy metal door open with his shoulder. Inside, it was dark, silent, dead, but not for long. Ellis stepped in. The floor creaked, the walls flickered with dim light. A central console sat in the middle, surrounded by old cables and faded dragon script. This is it? Ellis asked. Kale nodded. It's the last place on this planet that can reach beyond the stars. Ellis set the surviving memory crystal on the console. The device lit up, starting transmission. A soft voice said. A hologram appeared, flickering, weak. It showed Earth. Then it showed warning signs, symbols of war, alerts. It's working. Ellis whispered. Got Kale placed a claw on the console. Send it now, before they find us again. Ellis pressed the transmit key. The system began uploading the truth, the message from the fallen dragon. Council, the recordings of human leaders plotting war, and the images of Ellis and Kale fighting side by side. All of it, the truth, was going to space.2, Earth. To anyone who could listen. Then static, the signal cut out. Ellis froze. What happened? Kale growled low. Something's jamming us. The console blinked with a red warning. Incoming signal override. A voice came through. Cold, familiar, double quotes. Ellis, you've gone too far. Ellis stepped back. He knew that voice. It was General Voss, his former commander. The man who gave the order to eliminate the dragons. Ellis stared at the console. Voss. The general's voice was calm, cruel. You should have died on Varnak, but now you've seen too much. You lied to us, Ellis said. We gave you purpose, Voss replied. You were a weapon. That's all you were ever meant to be. Ellis clenched his fists. Kale growled beside him. You erased history. No, Voss replied. We rewrote it. Then came a new sound, a beeping alert. Orbital weapon lock detected. Ellis looked up. Kale's face went still. They're going to destroy the tower, Kale said. Ellis turned back to the console. The transmission was stuck at 87%. We don't have time, he said. Kale scanned the walls. There's a backup dish. It's outside, on the roof. Ellis didn't hesitate. He grabbed a memory crystal and ran. Followed, they climbed a spiral stairwell that shook with every step. Dust rained from above. The tower groaned at the top. The roof opened to the stars. A broken satellite dish pointed at the sky. Kale tore away the wreckage with one swipe of his claw. Plug it in, he said. Ellis connected. The crystal lights flickered. The signal resumed. 88%, 89%, A low hum grew louder. In the sky. A distant light shimmered. Then Kale's eyes widened. It's coming. A silver streak shot down from orbit. The orbital strike faster. Ellis shouted, 92%, 93%, The dish shook violently. Fire raced across the sky. Kale stepped in front of Ellis. spreading his wings. 9, 5%, 9, 6%, ... Ellis looked up. We're not gonna make it. Cale didn't move. Yes, we will. The final numbers blinked. 99%, ... 100% transmission complete. Ellis yanked the crystal free. The next second, the strike hit. The tower exploded in fire and thunder. Silence ash fell like snow from the wreckage. A broken beam moved, then a red wing rose from the smoke. Cale coughed, dragging himself out of the debris. Beside him, buried under a steel door, Ellis groaned. I'm alive, he muttered. Cale lifted the metal with one hand. Ellis crawled free, coughing. That was close, he said. Cale helped him up. The message got out. Ellis held up the cracked crystal. It sent. There's no stopping it now. Cale looked to the stars. They'll know the truth, Ellis nodded. But now they'll come for us. Cale gave a sharp grin. Let them. Suddenly, a noise echoed from the lower levels. Engines, they're landing, Ellis said. No, Cale replied. They're hunting. They had to move again. They left the destroyed tower behind, slipping into the mountain tunnels. As they walked, Ellis looked at the stars. Do you think anyone heard us? He asked. Cale didn't answer at first. Then he said, I don't know. But someone will. Someone must. Ellis grinned. If not, we'll make more noise. Cale looked at him. You've changed. Ellis shrugged. So have you. They walked together into the cold dark. The stars above them no longer silent and far away on distant planets' receivers blinked. Messages appeared on forbidden screens. Truth had escaped, and it was just the beginning. The tunnels were black, old, and endless. Ellis held a flickering torch, made from broken metal and wires wrapped in burning cloth. The flame danced along the tunnel walls, casting shadows that looked like claws. Cale moved ahead slowly, his tail brushing the rocky floor, his ears alert. Every few steps, he paused, sniffed the air, and then moved again. There are traps here, he whispered. Ellis nodded. I figured these tunnels were built long ago by a forgotten race maybe, even before dragons ruled the skies. Now they were just hollow bones of a dead world. I don't understand, Ellis said. Why would Voss try so hard to stop us? What's he really afraid of? Cale didn't answer at first. Then he said, it's not just the message, it's what the message will wake up. Ellis frowned. Wake up? Cale stopped near a fork in the path. His claw traced a strange mark on the wall, curved, sharp, almost like a flame. Cale said, do you know what it means? Ellis shook his head. Cale's eyes narrowed. It means firebound. Is that your kind? No, Cale said. It's older, much older. Suddenly, a sound echoed behind the metal scraping stone. Both turned fast. Ellis raised the torch. Cale spread his wings. Out of the shadows came a shape, not human, not dragon, something in between. Its eyes glowed blue. Its voice was broken. You should not be here. Cale stepped forward. You're one of the keepers. The figure nodded, and you carry the firebound mark. Cale's eyes widened. Ellis looked at both of them. What is this? What's happening? The keeper stepped into the light. Its skin was like molten rock, its veins glowing faintly. You've broken silence, it said. The stars have heard, and now the fire will rise again. Ellis looked at Cale. What does that mean? Cale whispered. I think it means we started something we can't stop. The keeper held out a hand. In it was a small cube, glowing, with red light. Take it, the keeper said. Ellis hesitated. Cale reached for it instead. As soon as his claw touched the cube, a shockwave rolled through the tunnel. Dust rained from the ceiling. The walls pulsed like they were breathing. Then came the voice, not from the keeper, not from any speaker, but from the cube itself. It spoke in an ancient tongue. And then, in plain English, he who breaks the silence must carry the flame. Ellis took a step back. Okay, that's creepy. The keeper bowed. Then it turned to ash and disappeared. Cale held the cube carefully. It pulsed in his claw. What is it? Ellis asked. Cale stared at the cube, his voice low. It's a signal, or maybe a map. To what? To something buried. The tunnel shook again. This time, it wasn't the cube. Explosions echoed in the distance. They found us, Ellis said. Cale nodded. Time to run. They sprinted through the tunnels, the cube lighting their way. Behind them, The sound of footsteps grew louder. Human troops. Dozens. Ellis glanced over his shoulder. They brought hunters. Cale turned sharply, leading them into a side chamber. It was large like a cathedral, built under the ground. Massive statues stood on each side. Dragons, humans. Together, this place, Ellis whispered. It was real. The alliance was real. Cale placed the cube on the ground. It floated. Then it projected a map into the air, a glowing red path through stars, planets, and symbols. It's leading us to the Flame Archive, Cale said. What's that? A hidden vault, he replied, where the first Firebound kept the truth. Ellis stared at the map. We send this to Earth. Cale shook his head. No, we go there. But why? Cale looked at him. Because inside that archive is proof that humans and dragons were once one. Ellis blinked. What? Cale stepped closer. We weren't enemies. We were the same tribe. We shared blood, power, flame. Ellis backed away. That's not what we were taught. That's why they're trying to erase it. The door behind them exploded. Troops poured in. Stop, a voice shouted. Ellis. Turned out it was Commander Rhinocold. Steel-eyed man Ellis had trained under 4 years. You betrayed us, Rhine growled. You gave secrets to that beast. Ellis stepped forward. I didn't betray anyone. I found the truth. You think? The truth matters, Rhine barked. We decide what truth is. He raised his gun. Cale roared and launched forward. Fire lit the chamber. Ellis dove behind a statue as lasers lit up the room. Cale slammed into Rhine, claws flashing. Ellis grabbed the cube and ran toward the exit on the far side. Cale, he shouted. Cale was bleeding again, burned. But standing, he turned to Ellis. Go. I'm not leaving you. You have to. Ellis hesitated, then turned and ran, the cube glowing bright in his hand. Behind him, Cale roared again louder. This time, more powerful, the chamber filled with red light. A second later, the ceiling collapsed. Dust, silence, Ellis burst out of the tunnel into the open. Night air, he looked back, but there was no exit, just rocks and silence. Cale, he whispered. The cube flickered in his hand. Then it spoke again. Carrier identified. Flame path locked. Begin journey. Ellis stared at the stars. He was alone now, but the path had begun, and the fire was still burning. Ellis didn't remember how long he ran. His legs were burning. His hands were shaking. The glowing cube stayed tight in his grip, pulsing with warmth, almost like a heartbeat. He didn't look back. He couldn't, because if he did, he might see the rocks where Cale had vanished. He wasn't ready for that. Not yet. The night air was cold. Thin clouds moved like ghosts across a black sky. Above, the stars blinked. Unaware of the war below, Ellis stumbled into the edge of a scrap field metal wreckage scattered across. A dusty canyon, old ships, old bones. Forgotten stories, he dropped behind a broken shuttle and collapsed, panting. Hard, the cube hovered above his palm, spinning slowly. Then it spoke. One flame remains. Journey must continue. Ellis stared at it. What journey? Where do I even go? The cube projected a soft red trail into the era line of stars, stretching far, far away toward a name Ellis had only seen in books. A forbidden planet? A graveyard of dragons? A place erased from human records? Ellis sat back, eyes wide. We're going there. The cube did not answer. He pressed his back against the cold hull of the old shuttle. Cale, he whispered. But no voice came back, only silence. By morning, Ellis reached an old smuggler station at the edge of the canyon. It was half buried in dust. Its landing pad cracked and rusted. A single ship sat on the pad, a beat-up cargo runner with one wing lower than the other. Inside, an old man sat chewing something bitter. His name was Varn. He had long white hair, 2 cybernetic fingers, and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. I need to get off-world, Ellis said. Varn snorted. Don't we all? I can pay. He held up the cube. Varn's eyes widened. You stole a fire key, Ellis frowned. You know what this is? Everyone old enough does. You show that to the wrong person, they'll cut off your hand. To get it, I'm going to Paraxis. Varn leaned back and gave a dry laugh. Suicidal, are you? I have to go. Even dragons don't go to Paraxis. Ellis looked down. One did. Varn stopped laughing. He stared at Ellis for a long time. Then he stood and walked toward the ship. "Be ready to die, kid." Ellis followed without a word. The journey took 4 days. 4 days of silence, engines humming, and space stretching endlessly outside the window. Varn barely spoke. He just chewed, checked controls, and muttered at the walls. Ellis stared at the stars. He dreamed of fire, of Kale's roar, of the truth hidden beneath dragon bones. On the 5th day, Paraxis appeared. Was a red planet, broken and burning in slow pieces. Ancient storms twisted across its surface. Floating rocks hovered in the atmosphere like forgotten islands. Ellis stood at the front window and whispered, "Looks like hell." Varn grunted, "Welcome home." They landed on a black plateau surrounded by ashdot the moment the ship touched. Down the cube jumped out of Ellis's hand and floated ahead, pointing toward a jagged mountain. "That's where we go," Ellis said. "Varen didn't move. I wait here." Ellis nodded and stepped into the burning wind. The climb up the mountain felt like a test. Heat pressed against his skin. Ash filled his lungs. The cube lit his path, and Ellis followed it like a ghost chasing light. He passed the remains of giant bones dragon skeletons, wings turned to stone, teeth as long as swords. He felt their eyes, their anger, their silence, finally. He reached the top. At the center stood a round door made of black stone, symbols carved deep into its surface. Glowed faintly red. The cube floated into a slot in the door. It spun, clicked. The door opened with a thunderous groan. Ellis stepped inside. The flame archive was not what he expected. It was beautiful, walls lined with glowing crystals, towers of light, floating books made of flame and smoke. And in the center, a throne. Empty. Until it wasn't. A shadow formed tall, winged red dash-eyed, not Kale, but similar, it spoke. "You carry the key," Ellis swallowed. "Yes, you are human. I am. And yet the flame chose you." Ellis took a step forward. Why did Kale die for this? The shadow did not answer. Instead, it held out a claw. "Show me your memory." Ellis hesitated, then placed his hand in the shadows. Flashes of light, Kale saving him. Kale roaring in the chamber, Kale telling him the truth, and finally, the cavern. The shadow pulled away. "He is not dead." Ellis's heart jumped. "What? He burned? Yes, but flame never dies. It changes." The figure turned and pointed to a crystal wall. There, a glowing shape moved, trapped in light. Breathing. Kale. Ellis stepped closer. "He's alive." The shadow nodded. "In stasis, the cube led you here to find him. But now, you must choose. Choose, save him, or wake the flame. What happens if I wake the flame?" The shadow's voice was cold. "The galaxy will burn, the truth will rise, and the war will begin again." Ellis stepped back, heart racing. 2 choices. Save Kale. Or finish the mission. He looked at the glowing cube, then at the crystal holding Kale, then back at the throne. He whispered, "Why can't I do both?" The shadow answered simply, "Because fire always takes something." Ellis clenched his fists. Then he made his choice. He walked toward the crystal. "I'm not letting him die." The shadow didn't stop him. He touched the crystal. It cracked. Flames burst from the center. Kale's body dropped to the floor, burned, scarred, alive. Ellis fell beside him. Kale opened his eyes. "You came back?" Ellis smiled. "Told you, I don't leave friends behind." Kale's claws dug into the floor. The chamber shook. The shadow vanished. The throne lit up. The cube floated between them. Flame bond complete. Destiny locked. Ellis helped Kale stand. "Now what?" Ellis asked. Kale looked at the throne. "We finish what we started." Outside, the sky turned red. Jot ships were coming. The war was closer than ever, but now the flame had 2 carriers, and nothing would ever be the same again. The sky above Paraxis thundered, not with storms, with ships. Dozens. Hundreds. They weren't dragon ships. They weren't dragon ships. They were human. And they were armed. Kale stared up from the mountain peak. Wings still weak, body covered in scorched scars. "They found us," he said. Ellis stood beside him, heart pounding, watching the sky fill with dark clouds of steel. He held the cube in one hand, and in the other, fire. Real flame. It didn't burn him. It wrapped around his fingers like a ribbon of light. Why would humans come here? Ellis asked. Cale narrowed his eyes. Because the moment the Flame Archive opened, they knew. You said no one comes to Paraxis, no one used to, but everything's changed now. Ellis looked down at the burning symbol on his palm, the mark the cube had left behind. A flame.alive. Cale reached out his claw. Ellis took it without hesitation. Together, they walked down the Black Mountain, toward the old landing pad, toward the... Stormvarn was already packing his gear. He looked up and nearly dropped his bag. When he saw Cale alive and walking beside Ellis, You survived that? He asked. Calais said nothing. Ellis nodded. He's back, and we need your ship. Varn stared at the sky. You see all that? There's a fleet coming down. They'll torch this place. We're not staying, Cale said. We're going up. Varn's mouth dropped open. You're insane! Ellis held up the cube. The archive gave us something powerful. If we let them destroy it, all of this was for nothing. Varn took a long breath. Then, he turned and opened the ship's ramp. Fine, but I want double when we make it out. You'll get it, Ellis said. They ran on board. The engines roared. The ship rose just as the first missile hit the mountain behind them, in orbit above Paraxis. The fleet had already surrounded the atmosphere. Command ships, attack cruisers, fighters, swarming like insects. In the center of it all was the Justice Star, the largest human battle carrier ever built. On its bridge stood Admiral Rylon. His eyes were cold, his uniform flawless. He watched the screen showing a single ship rising from the mountain. He didn't blink. Prepare to fire, he ordered. Target is unknown civilian vessel, an officer replied. Target is carrying a red dragon, Rylon said. I don't care what it's labeled as. If it's leaving Paraxis, we destroy it. The officers obeyed, but deep down, some of them hesitated because dragons hadn't been seen in years, and now one was flying. With a human dot inside the cargo ship, alarms screamed. Varn yelled from the cockpit, We've got lock-ons, 6 fighters incoming. Ellis stood behind him, heart racing. Is there a way around them? Only one? What is it? Cale answered. I fly. Varn turned, eyes wide. You fly my ship. Cale spread his claw, and flames danced around the controls without burning them. The archive gave me its language, he said. This ship listens. Varn stepped back. Cale sat in the pilot seat. The dashboard glowed red. The ship turned hard to the left, faster than anything Varn had ever made it move. Hold on, Cale growled. The ship shot forward. Missiles followed. So did fighters. Lasers burned the air, but Cale flew like the wind turning. Twisting, ducking between blasts, Ellis held the wall. We won't make it through a whole fleet. Cale's eyes flashed. We don't have to. What do you mean? Cale pointed to the largest ship in orbit, the Justice Star. Ellis blinked. You want to board that? They're the head, Cale said. Cut the head. The body hesitates. Varn looked sick. You're insane, Cale grinned. So are humans. Ellis nodded. Let's do it. The ship raced toward the center of the fleet. Alarms blared. Ships turned to intercept. But the cargo runner dove underneath them, dodging fire. Weaving through their formations like a spark through dry grass. Inside the Justice Star, Rylon shouted. How are they still flying? Sir, they've breached our perimeter. Bring them down. But it was too late. Cale slammed the ship straight into the lower hangar. It skidded across the deck. Fighters and guards scattered. Then the ramp dropped, and fire poured out. Cale stepped onto the floor, wings burning, eyes glowing red. Ellis followed, with the cube floating above his shoulder. Stand down, a soldier shouted. Ellis raised his hands. We're not here to fight. Cale looked sideways yet. The soldiers hesitated. One by one, they lowered their weapons. Not because they were ordered to, because they were scared. The last red dragon wasn't supposed to exist. But here, he was breathing. Walking beside a human, Admiral Rylon entered the hangar moments later, his guards forming a circle. Do you know what you've done? He asked coldly. Ellis stepped forward. Yes, we found the Flame Archive. Rylon stared at the glowing cube. You were warned. That place was sealed for a reason. It was sealed because of fear, Cale said. But fear isn't truth. You're a weapon. I was. And now Cale looked at Ellis. I'm something more. Rylon raised a gun. Ellis stepped between them. Shoot me, and you prove the dragons were right to fear humans." The silence that followed was heavy. Then Kel spread his wings and did something no one expected. He bowed to Rillin to show trust. Kel said softly, "We burned the galaxy once. We won't again. But if you try to stop us," he raised his eyes, "you'll see what a flame reborn really is." Rillin didn't shoot. He slowly lowered his weapon. Then he turned to his soldiers. "Let them go." Murmurs rose across the deck. Ellis stepped forward. "You're letting us go." "No," Rillin said. "I'm letting hope go. If you're wrong, the galaxy will turn to ash." Ellis nodded. "And if we're right," Rylin looked away, "then maybe we finally stop burning everything we fear." Back aboard Varn's ship, Cale sat in silence. Ellis stood beside him. "We did it," Ellis whispered. Cale didn't answer. He looked out at the stars. "There's still more." Ellis frowned. "More what?" "Flame archives, hidden on other worlds, and others like me, sleeping." Ellis felt the cube pulse in his pocket. "So we find them." Cale smiled. Together, the ship rose into the stars. Behind them, the fleet didn't chase. For the first time in centuries, a human and a dragon flew side by side as partners, and the galaxy watched in silence, waiting for what came next. The stars stretched endlessly outside the viewport. Ellis stood at the edge of the ship's observation deck. Holding the cube, it pulsed softly now like a heart, like it was waiting. Cale stood behind him. Silent Varn leaned against the wall, chewing on a piece of dried fruit. "Where are we even going?" he asked. Cale answered, voice calm but low. Iden 6. Varn's face twitched. "That's a dead world. Radiation stormed it out 100 years ago." Cale turned toward him. "Exactly." Ellis narrowed his eyes. "You think there's another archive there?" Cale nodded. "There are 7 in total, 1 for each core flame." "And this one?" Ellis asked, raising the cube. Cale touched it gently with a claw. "But the one on Iden, that's not knowledge, it's rage." Hours later, they descended into a swirling cloud of red dust. Iden 6 was broken. Cracks split the surface like veins. Black smoke rose from old volcanic pits. No life, no cities, no sound. Only ash. The ship landed on a flat, glowing rock near a rusted tower that had long since collapsed. As they stepped out, Ellis felt a strange weight pressing on his chest. "Heavy," he whispered. Cale nodded. "This world still burns inside, even if it looks dead." Varn activated his mask. "Let's make this quick. I don't trust this place." Ellis took the lead, following the cube's pulses like a compass. Each step deeper into the ash made the glow stronger, each breath harder than they found it. A crater, deep, too perfect to be natural. Inside it, half buried, was a massive structure made of black stone and molten lines that still pulsed. It was shaped like a claw. Ellis stepped toward it. Cale grabbed his shoulder. "This one isn't asleep," he said. Ellis turned. "What do you mean?" Cale's eyes narrowed. "This archive is awake." The moment Ellis touched the claw-shaped stone, it moved, not the rock, the world. The ground cracked under them. Lava spilled from the edges. The crater's walls began to rise like machines awakening. And then something roared. Not like a dragon, something deeper, something older. Ellis stumbled back. "What was that?" Cale pulled him behind a rock. "Not all flames are pure. This one was locked away for a reason. Are we unlocking it?" "No," Cale said. "It's unlocking itself." The cube in Ellis's hand turned black. Its fire disappeared. Varn cursed. "That can't be good," Cale growled. "We need to leave." Now they ran toward the ship, but the path was already gone. Cracked, burning, the crater had become a pit of living fire, and from it rose something, a shape, twisting, massive, not. Quite a dragon, but not human either. It had wings, it had claws, and its body was made of molten armor and flame. Its face was a skull, and when it spoke, the sky itself trembled. Who disturbs the ember? Vault. Ellis froze. Cale shoved him behind a rock. Varn yelled from a distance, already running for the ship. "Forget this. That thing's a god." Cale stepped forward. "I am Cale of the Red Flame. We seek the archives." The creature's eyes burned. "There are no archives here, only judgment." Kale flared his wings. "We will not leave without—" Understanding, the creature tilted its head. "You carry the flame of knowledge, but this place is not for minds. It is for wrath." Kale nodded. "I know." Ellis stepped beside him. "We came to stop what's coming." The creature leaned closer. "You woke me." "No," Ellis said. "You woke yourself." For a moment, the sky fell silent again. Then the creature laughed. It was a laugh made of thunder and death. "You think fire listens. Fire consumes." Kale's voice rose. "Then maybe it's time fire met something it couldn't burn." He leaped into the air, wings wide, flames surging from his throat. He struck the creature with a blast of heat so bright the ground shook. Ellis covered his eyes. When he looked again, Kale was midair, spinning. The creature hadn't moved. It raised one claw, swatted Kale from the sky like a fly. Kale hit the rock and didn't move. "Kale!" Ellis screamed. The creature turned to him. "You! Hold the flame! I can smell it! Give it to me!" Ellis backed away. No. The cube floated into the air, and for the first time it spoke, a voice not human, not dragon, but something between. Flame identified. Corruption level, extreme. Defensive protocol, engaged. The cube ignited. Not just light, but force. It struck the creature in the chest, and for the first time, it stumbled, screamed. Ellis ran to Kale. "Get up, please." Kale opened one eye, was just resting. He stood, slow, broken, but alive. Ellis helped him to his feet. The cube hovered between them. "You're going to finish it?" Kale asked. Ellis stared at the creature, now charging toward them with fire in its eyes. "I don't know how." Kale pointed to Ellis's chest. "You already carry the flame. All it needs is your will." Ellis held out both hands. The cube flew into him. His veins lit up, his eyes turned gold, and the flame changed. It became armor, a second skin, and in his hand formed a sword of fire. He raised it just as the creature lunged. Their blades met, and the world cracked open when the light faded. Ellis was on his knees. Smoke rose all around him. The creature was gone. Only a pile of black glass remained. Kale limped toward him. "You did it," Ellis whispered. Kale shook his head. "We did." Varn shouted from behind a rock. "Is it over?" Kale chuckled. "You can come out now." Varn peeked over the stone, his face pale. "That was not what I signed up for." Ellis stood slowly. The flame armor faded, but the cube was inside him now. He could feel it. Kale looked back at the crater. The stones were cooling. The flame was silent. Ellis asked, "Was that one of your kind?" Kale's face darkened. "No, that was something older, a failed flame. One who tried to conquer instead of understand." Ellis nodded. "Then we keep going." Kale looked surprised. "You still want to?" "We've found 2 archives," Ellis said. "There are 5 more, each with something dangerous." Kale's voice dropped. "And powerful?" "Exactly," Viren groaned. "And I suppose I'm flying the ship again." Ellis smiled. "You're part of the team now," Kale patted Varn on the shoulder. "Congratulations," Varn sighed. Really should have stayed retired. They turned toward the ship. The sky above Iden 6 began to clear, for the first time in centuries. Light broke through the ash dot, and behind them, buried deep in cooling rock, the second archive went silent, waiting for what came next. The journey from Iden 6 was silent. Kale rested in the medbay, his wing wrapped in silver cloth. Ellis sat alone on the bridge. The cube inside him pulsed slowly now, not with fire, but with something colder memory. It had shown him flashes. A galaxy torn apart by war, flames fighting flames, dragons, burning cities, and humans standing in the middle, unsure which side they belonged to. Varn walked in with 2 mugs of synth coffee still. "Not sleeping?" he asked. Ellis shook his head. "The cube won't let me." Varn handed him a mug. "You know, when I joined this mission, I thought it was just another weird job." He sipped. "Now, I've seen a fire god made of bones and a dragon bleed lava." Ellis looked at him. "You regret it?" Varn shrugged. "Ask me again when we survive." Kale's voice crackled from the intercom. "We're approaching the next coordinate. Prepare for descent." The world below was nothing like the last dot, was green dot, alive dot fields stretched forever. Forests rose high into the clouds, and at the center, carved into a mountain, was a temple made of silver stone, glowing with ancient symbols. As they landed, Cale joined them on the ramp. He still limped, but his fire had returned. "I know this place," he said. "You do?" Ellis asked. Cale nodded. "This is the Temple of Balance. One of the last places the seven flames agreed to build together," Varn muttered. "Let me guess. The cube is pointing straight into the creepy temple." Ellis smiled. "Exactly." They walked toward it together, but the air felt different, soft, like the planet itself was watching. The temple doors opened without a touch. Inside was silence. No statues, no guards, no flame, only a hallway of mirrors. Each mirror showed a different reflection. Ellis saw himself as a child, as a soldier, as a man holding the burning cube. Cale's reflection wasn't a dragon. It was a boy, wings, small eyes, scared. And Varn's mirror was empty. He stepped back. "That's not funny," he muttered. Cale frowned. "These aren't jokes. They're truths." Varn touched the glass. "So what? I don't have a truth." Ellis looked around. "Maybe your truth isn't here yet." At the center of the temple was a throne. Empty. But above it floated a flame, small. Blue. Different from the others. It didn't burn, it shimmered. Cale dropped to one knee. Ellis followed. Even Varn stayed quiet. The flame whispered, "Who seeks the third?" Ellis stepped forward. "I do. I seek the flame of balance." The voice replied, soft and sad. "There is no balance, only choice." Ellis frowned. "What do you mean?" The flame pulsed. "3 flames have awakened. 3 paths now burn. Will you light the 4th and continue, or extinguish them and end this?" Cale stood. "That's not how this works." The flame turned toward him. "You would fight again, Cale of the red flame, even knowing what comes." Cale's eyes narrowed. "Yes." Ellis reached out his hand. The flame drifted toward him, but just before it touched him, it stopped. A new voice echoed, "No." A figure stepped from the shadows, tall, human, wrapped in dark armor that shimmered like oil. His eyes burned white, and on his chest glowed a cube just like Ellis's, but black and twisted. Ellis froze. "Who are you?" The man smiled. "The first, the one who touched the flame before you," Cale growled. "I know that voice. You're Ran." The man nodded. "I was Ran, now I am more." He walked forward. Varn raised his blaster. Ran snapped a finger. It melted. Varn backed away. "What do you want?" Ran pointed at Ellis. "To stop him from making the same mistake I did." Ellis clenched his fists. "You used the cube, and you lost yourself." "I became myself," Ran said. "The flames, they don't bring peace, they bring war. Each archive holds a piece of a weapon, one we once used to destroy," Cale hissed. "You lie." Ran turned toward him. "You were there, Cale. You saw it." Cale looked away. Ellis stepped between them. "So what? We're just supposed to walk away?" Ran nodded. "Yes, let the flames sleep, or they will burn everything." The blue flame above the throne flickered. "This is your choice, Ellis." Ellis looked at Cale, then at Varn, and finally at the flame. He reached up. The flame touched his fingers and flowed into him this time. The fire didn't burn, it calmed. His heartbeat slowed, his mind cleared. The cube inside him pulsed with blue light. Ran stepped back, disappointed. "Then you've doomed us all?" He vanished in a ripple of shadow. Cale exhaled. Varn wiped sweat from his face. "Please tell me he can't teleport inside the ship." Ellis looked up. "I don't think he needs to." The blue flame spoke once more. 4 are lit, 3 remain. But beware the 5th. It does not sleep willingly. Cale asked, "Where is it?" The temple doors groaned. A new hallway opened. Inside it was a map, etched in stars, and at its center, a black sun. Cale whispered, "The Forge of Endings." Varn cursed. "That name doesn't sound peaceful." Ellis stared at it, then nodded. "Let's go." Cale hesitated. "You just made an enemy of the first flame." Ellis turned to him. "No, I made a choice. I won't let fear decide our path." The cube inside him pulsed again, and far away, in the heart of a dying system, a sleeping archive began to stir, not with knowledge, not with balance, but with hunger, waiting, watching, ready. The stars above them didn't shine. They watched as the ship glided toward the Forge of Endings. Space felt colder. Ellis stood at the front window, arms folded. Cale stood beside him, silent. Varn was at the controls, chewing on a stim gum like his life depended on it. None of them spoke for hours. They didn't need to. The cube inside, Ellis pulsed slowly. Now with 4 lights, blue for balance, white for memory, gold for power, red for loyalty, only 3 flames remained, but the 5th was different. It wasn't asleep. It was awake and angry. The map from the temple had led them to this place, a dead system, with no living sun, only a black hole spinning at its center, and orbiting that darkness was a single station, made of broken ships, wreckage. Old bones of war, reassembled into something massive. Cale whispered, "The Forge." Ellis felt the heat from the cube rise. "It's waiting." Varn narrowed his eyes. "We land, or it eats us." Cale's wings flared. "We land, and we end this." They stepped out onto cold metal. The Forge didn't hum like normal space stations, it breathed. Steam hissed from vents. Strange symbols glowed red under their boots. The air felt heavy, like it remembered battles fought long ago. Ellis led the way, cube glowing in his chest. Cale followed, scales glowing faintly. Varn had rebuilt his blaster, this one twice as ugly, and twice as deadly. They passed broken statues of alien warriors, torn banners, weapons fused into the walls. Ellis whispered, "This place was never a station." Cale finished, "It was a prison, and it was no longer locked." At the center of the Forge was a throne, not like the one in the Temple of Balance. This one was made of ash, black steel, and bones. Sitting on it was a being unlike anything they'd seen. It had no face, only fire. Shifting, burning, changing. It spoke in a voice that echoed in their skulls. "So, the last flame comes." Walking, Ellis stepped forward. "I've awakened for. I came for the 5th. The being laughed. It sounded like a scream. "You think you woke them? They woke you." Cale growled. "Enough riddles. Are you the 5th? The flame rose from the throne. It towered above them now. "I am the first, the last, the weapon that ended gods. I am Despair." Varn raised his blaster. "Nice to meet you, Despair." He fired. The beam passed through the flame, no effect. The fire flared out, hitting Varn with a wave of heat. He collapsed, groaning. Ellis ran to his side. "He's alive, barely." Cale stepped between Ellis and Despair. "You're not a flame. You're a curse." Despair laughed. "And yet, your kind built me, lit me, used me. You remember, don't you, Cale?" Cale's eyes glowed. He remembered. His kind had once created Despair, a flame not for knowledge or power, but for destruction. They'd used it to end wars, to end civilizations, and when it grew too strong, they locked it away. Cale's voice cracked. "I tried to stop it." Ellis stood. The cube inside him flared white, lurid gold. "I won't let it happen again." He reached toward the 5th flame. Despair roared, "You touch me, and you burn." Ellis whispered, "Then let me burn." The moment his fingers touched the edge of the black fire, the cube exploded with light. A blinding pulse shot across the Forge. Screams filled the air. Not from Ellis, but from the walls. The station shook. Metal screamed. Cale pulled Ellis. "Back, you can't hold it. It's too strong." Ellis fell to his knees. The cube was breaking. Cracks spread across his chest. Varn struggled to sit up. Ellis stopped, but Ellis didn't. He remembered what the blue flame had said. Balance wasn't about control. It was about choice. He didn't. Have to use the flames. He could let them go. He closed his eyes and let go. The cube shattered. The light burst from him, shooting upward. Red dot, white dot, gold dot, blue dot. They flew like stars and vanished into space. Despair screamed. The throne cracked. Fire spiraled upward. Chaotic, wild. Cale grabbed Ellis and shielded him with his wings. The Forge began to fall apart. Varn shouted, "Time to go." They ran. Metal broke beneath their feet. Fire rained from above. As they reached the ship, the station exploded behind them. The The black flame, now unbound, screamed across the stars, then vanished, silenced, back aboard. Ellis lay unconscious. Cale sat beside him. "He's alive," he told Varn. "But the cube is gone." Varn leaned back. "Good, no more flaming puzzles." They watched Ellis sleep. The ship floated silently. Through the remains of the forge, Cale whispered, "He didn't destroy the fifth flame." "No," Varn said. "He set it free." Cale nodded. "Then the war isn't over." Varn stood up. "But it won't start today." Ellis woke 3 days later. His chest was scarred, but calm, no cube, no fire, just peace. Cale smiled. "You did?" Ellis sat up. "No, we did." He looked out the window. Stars moved slowly past them. "What happens now?" Cale shrugged. "The flames are gone, or hiding, but others will find them." "Just like we did," Varn added. "Let's hope they're better at sharing." They all laughed. For the first time in weeks, it felt normal. Ellis whispered, "I trusted a red dragon, and I'd do it again." Cale's wings rustled. "Next time, you grow wings." Ellis smiled. "Deal." As their ship drifted into open space, a faint light blinked on the scanner. Far away, another archive awoke. Not for war, not for power, but for hope and someone. Somewhere, looked up and whispered, "They warned me never to trust a red dragon." But maybe the flames have changed. The end.